Welcome to Making Sense with Meka, the podcast. The Making Sense with Meka podcast is a journey where we'll explore the truth of everyday life from my experiences and my perspective. We'll ask the hard questions in an attempt to make it all make sense. Making Sense with Meka, the podcast, episode 4, Single Parent Guilt. Hey y'all, it's the Making Sense with Meka podcast coming to you today with episode 4. We're going to talk about single parent guilt today. Now y'all, I didn't even know I had this until I recorded episode 3. As you know, episode 3, I had a candid conversation with my daughter about a lot of stuff, about college and me being a single parent and the absence of her other biological parent. And when I asked her about her other biological parent and what she felt like she missed out on life, if anything, and where she felt like there may have been disadvantages for not having that other parent available financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. My daughter, both my kids are way laid back and chill. And she was so chill, and she was like, "Ma, nothing. Like, you really surrounded me with a village of people, and those people supported me, and I don't feel like I missed out on anything." And she also stated that, she didn't feel like she needed an apology. She was good. She was happy. She was healthy. And she didn't feel like her life had been impacted in a negative way due to this. And so the crazy part is me being a single mom for the last 12 years, being her only available parent. I really thought that she was going to have something to say, I thought that she was going to go in on me and her dad. I assumed that she really would have some feelings about that. And to my surprise, she didn't. She was cool. She was like, "I'm good. You gave me the best of what you had to give, and it was enough." Now, did that make me feel great? Yes, it did. But it also made me do some real serious self-reflection because of what I was expecting from the conversation that I didn't get. I didn't realize that I had some guilt behind being a single mom, behind being the only provider, the only source of knowledge and care, and being everything that my kids needed. True enough, I've had my mom. Before my dad passed away, he was very active with my son. I've had friends and family who have all jumped in and supported. My now husband is wonderful. He jumps in and he supports, and I appreciate all of that. I have a wonderful village of people who have loved my kids, who have supported my kids, who have encouraged and motivated and inspired my kids. In that way, my little family has truly been blessed. But I always thought that because they were missing that part of their life, that I was lacking in some way. I felt guilty for being a single mom. I felt like I did my children a disservice by choosing the wrong person to have children with. It's amazing how you can take on guilt for a situation that really doesn't even exist. My daughter has developed and is an amazing person. My son is an amazing person. But I always felt a level of guilt because their father was not readily available. He didn't provide the sources that they needed. I also felt a certain amount of guilt for the lack of finances at times when they wanted or needed things. I've always gone above and beyond and did what was in my ability to do. So if I had it or I had a way to go and get it, I did that because I didn't want them to come short. I didn't feel like it was fair because they didn't have another parent available that they should come up short in any way. So when schools called and they said, oh, we have this opportunity or that opportunity for your child to be a part of, and it's going to cost X amount of dollars, I always made it my business to try to find X amount of dollars because my kids didn't ask to be here. I brought them here. It's my job to love and support them financially, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And I didn't want to fall short in that. I didn't want them to ever look at me like I didn't get to take part in that because I didn't have a dad, because my dad wasn't around. So I carried a certain level of guilt. Now, that certain level of guilt also motivated me to make sure that they didn't go without a lot of things. But it also made me feel horrible when they had to go without certain things, or when a bill was late. I mean, I've been a single mom for a long time. I've had electric cut off. I've had the water cut off. I've had cars repossessed. And this is just me, y'all, being straight, blunt, and honest. I've been through the gamut of the single mom struggle. I've never been homeless. Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. I've never been homeless. My kids have always had a roof over their head and always had food in their stomach. So I am grateful for that blessing. But I consistently robbed Peter to pay Paul. I was always juggling more than what I felt I really had to give. Now, did I make it work? Of course. My babies were counting on me. They needed me. So I was going to make it work. I was going to figure out a way. But it was hard. And underlying in all of that was this certain level of guilt because I didn't choose the right partner. And like I said, I didn't even realize totally that that's what I felt until I had a conversation with my daughter, and she's like, I'm good. And I'm like, wait, hold on, Ty, wait a minute. That wasn't what I expected. I didn't think this conversation was going to go like that. I was expecting her to point her finger at me and say, Mom, you picked a horrible person to be our father, and I missed out on, or I lacked in these areas because he didn't do, or he didn't step up in the places that I needed him to do. But to my surprise, it wasn't that way. Fast forward to just this week, I had a conversation with my son, and that went a little different. He is missing out on some things. My son is 23 years old. He is a high school graduate. He is self-sufficient. He has lived on his own in a different state from me, about 10 hours away, for the last 3 years. He has maintained and taken great care of himself. He doesn't need me very much. When he does, he calls, but it's not very often. But he expressed his need, or his lack of, I won't say his need, his lack of a positive male role model in his life. My father passed away when he was 6 years old, and my father and my son developed a very, very close relationship. They were together all the time, and he truly looked at my father as his father almost. And we had a conversation, and he said, lately, Mom, he's just been on my mind a lot lately. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just realized that for my life growing up, he truly was the only positive black role model I've had in my life. So their stories are kind of different. And again, my son is a man, so his story would differ from my daughter's. But all in all, I was carrying guilt that probably was not necessary, or guilt for something that I thought I was doing wrong, and my kids didn't see it that way. Both my kids have been very vocal about the fact that, Mom, you did an excellent job. You worked really hard. You were a really good example, and we thank you for that. We're proud of you, and we appreciate all you've done. That means the world to me. However, for me, emotionally, mentally, I always thought it wasn't enough. I always thought that I, as their mom, was coming up short somewhere. And it hurts to even talk about this. I have tears in my eyes because I love my kids so much. They mean the world to me. And I brought them into this world with the best intentions. When I think about it now, my son was 5 or about to be 5 when I married their father. And I look back on that time and truly that was a marriage that should not have been. I married him because we had a child together. Because I wanted to have a family and for my family to be complete. And I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. And it necessarily wasn't the best decision. And not 9 months after we wed, came along a daughter. And so now I have 2 kids by this man. And, you know, we're married, but things ain't working right. And so 6-7 years into all of this, we go our separate ways. And in the divorce, he made the decision to not be present. And so I did what I was supposed to do as a mom. I picked myself up. I dusted myself off. I licked my wounds. And I said, okay, these kids are mine. And I carried them on my back. And when it comes to parenting, for me, I can honestly say, blood, sweat, and tears, I left it all on the floor. I did it all for them. Whatever was necessary, whatever they needed, however I had to provide it, I did it. Because they didn't ask to be here. I brought them here. They're my responsibility. It's my job to make sure that they have what they need and they lack nothing, if I can help it. So, and I took that role very, very seriously. I got pregnant with my son at 19 years old, and I delivered him 3.5 weeks before my 20th birthday. And from that time, I never slacked because I made a conscious decision when I decided to have him that this was my baby and it's my job to make sure he's good at all times. And I carried that over when my daughter came. So to realize that I had this underlying guilt. The guilt wasn't that me and their father wasn't together anymore. The guilt was that he wasn't active. Like I didn't pick a good guy to have these kids by who would stand by them regardless of our relationship or our connection. Once the connection severed between me and him, the connection severed between our children. And so the guilt wasn't that we didn't have a relationship. The guilt was that he decided not to be an active parent for my children because they deserve that. They deserve to have their father and to have him in a positive way and to be able to rely and count on them. They have both made a decision that they're not currently interested in a relationship with them. That is not something that I have encouraged or tried to force on them or not. That's something that they've made a decision on for themselves. They've paid attention to the actions over the years or lack thereof. And they've decided that, yeah, they don't want to be bothered with it. And that might just be now. Later on in life, they may feel different. Later on in life, things might change. And whatever my children decide, as far as that's concerned, they have my full support. But for me, as I was saying earlier, I just never felt like I was giving them enough. I've always felt like something was missing. So the guilt truly came from myself. I placed that guilt in my heart. I placed that guilt on my own shoulders because my kids were looking at me like I was a freaking hero and I didn't even know it. I'm thinking like, dang, we only got this in the fridge, this, that, and the third. It's not enough. But they're like, Mom, we full. I'm thinking like, dang, we only got this type of car to get them back and forth to A and B. But they're like, Mom, it drives. I'm like, dang, we only in this kind of living situation, apartment or rental house. I don't own a home. I don't have, this big backyard for them to play in. But they're like, Mom, we got a roof over our head. So everything that I ever gave them, they saw the good in it. While I was always questioning my effort. This helped me to realize some things about myself. About not thinking that I'm good enough. That what I offer people, the people that I love, my friends, my family, most importantly, my children, that I wasn't enough for them. And getting a small glimpse of me through their eyes is now helping me to realize, Meka, you was always enough. You always gave your best. You always went above and beyond for your children. And not just my children. I go above and beyond for anybody that I love. For my family, for my friends. When I give my all. So I really had to sit back and reflect after that conversation with my daughter. And then I had to do some more reflection after I had the conversation with my son. As most of you know, if you have 2 children, most times those children, I don't think it so much matters whether they're male or female, but most times those children are completely different, like night and day. And one child needs more in some areas than the other child, and the other child might need more in some other areas than the other child. So you, as a mother, you begin to figure out what child needs what, and you apply what you need to apply to each child as they come along, as they grow up, and you adjust and you figure out different ways. For my son, lacking that male father figure for the most integral parts of his life, from the time that my father passed away when he was 6, and then subsequently me and his father divorcing when he was about 12 or 13. There wasn't very much. I don't have any brothers, so he doesn't have any direct uncles. I have some. My mother has brothers, and so he has uncles on that side, but we always lived out of state, so he wasn't very close to them. So I had to figure it out, because everyone knows the saying, a woman can't raise a man. Now, how I do agree with that statement, I believe that when a woman is put in a situation where she has a son and it is her responsibility to raise the son without a male counterpart, I don't feel like that's something that cannot be done. Because I always took the approach with both my kids that I'm raising good people. Male, female, cat, dog. I am raising good people. I am teaching them values and character and responsibility and accountability, love, friendship. I am teaching them the most important parts of life for being a good person. And that's how I raise my son. My son is a good man, in spite of not having that male influence. He's still a good man because he's a good person. They watch me work hard. They watch me always have a job and always provide for them. Even when I came up short, they still knew Mommy got up and went to work all this week. So if she came up short, something else had to come up. Whether the car broke down or I had to get a new washing machine or whatever, they were there with me, and they knew that I wasn't coming up short just because I was lazy and wasn't doing what needed to be done. I came up short because something else occurred. There was an emergency. And when you're raising 2 kids on your own, and even if you're making a decent income, an emergency can throw off the whole plan. So both my kids are hard workers. My son got his first job at 16 years old, and he's been working ever since, and very, very self-sufficient. My daughter, the same, got her first job at 16, manages school, working, even bought her own first car. So I know they sat back and watched me. They watched me do that. They watched me provide for them. And they watched me still be able to do that and give them love and time and attention and the occasional vacation. And, even if we didn't go on vacations, out to eat or, whatever I had extra to give to them. They never went a Christmas without gifts. Not that Christmas is about gifts. However, we know the commercialization of it, and you go back to school and people want to see what you got, whether it's shoes or a phone or whatever. They never had to truly go without anything that was necessary, but they also were able to get some of their wants. And now I'm realizing, and I have to pat myself on the back, sis, you did a damn good job with not a lot of help. I had some help, but no one actually carrying the major brunt of it but me. And it makes me feel good. It makes me feel proud. And it humbles me that in spite of what I thought about myself, that my kids saw the best in me. That they saw their mother go hard for them and never give up and never quit. And I believe that is what has made them the people that they are. That's made them the good people that they are. I want to encourage moms and dads, if you're raising your kids alone and you are doing the very best that you can do, you're giving them all that you have. Be proud for that. Be okay with that. Accept that. Because those children are looking at you and they know you're all that they have. And they are so grateful and so thankful. And they truly see you as a hero. They don't see the faults. They don't look at you and say, man, the electric got cut off. Mom's a F up. That's not what they see. If anything, they're probably looking at you and saying, like, I wish I could help my mom. I wish I could be there for her financially or emotionally how she needs me to be. And like I said, after that conversation with my daughter and then a subsequent conversation with my son, I was able to really, really take a good look at myself and to be grateful and proud of what I've produced. My kids are amazing, man. They truly are amazing. And they're good people. They have good hearts. They give to others. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that came from me. I'm proud that the long days, the lonely nights, the tears, the fear, the sense of abandonment, the sense of not being enough, all paid off in the end. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God. I'm grateful that the universe supported me in raising my children because I know I didn't do it alone. I'm so grateful for my ancestors and the ones who've gone before me that I know they look down and watch over me and they watch over my children and they protect them in the most precarious circumstances when I'm not there. So those are the things that I'm grateful for and I'm proud of and that humble me every day. I'm amazed at what I was able to do with them. And like I said, it wasn't easy. I have my shortcomings and I have my faults. But they love me for what I was able to give in spite of what I couldn't. And I'm so grateful for that. I saw a quote somewhere that said, guilt doesn't always mean we're doing it wrong. It often means we're holding ourselves to unrealistic expectations. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was putting these unrealistic expectations on myself when it came to raising my children. Now, do I think that maybe that in part was a good thing because it fueled my motivation and it fueled me to to push myself to, harder? Partly, yeah. But it also caused some very dark days for me. And I think it played a large part of my depression and my anxiety. When I felt like I was going to come up short or that they might be missing out on something. So I caution anyone who's raising children alone to be realistic in your expectations for yourself. Always do the very, very best you can by them because they're your people. You brought them here. But also be realistic with yourself. Don't put so much pressure on yourself that it physically makes you sick, that it stresses you out, and then you get to the point where you can't be any good to anybody because you're not healthy enough. You're physically sick at this point because you've placed so much heaviness on yourself and so much pressure on yourself that you can't accomplish the things that you need to accomplish. As always, here at the Making Sense with Meka podcast, we try our best to give you tips and ideas to go forward to any questions that we might have. So I do have a few tips for single parents that might be feeling some guilt behind either choosing the wrong partner or losing a partner or just being stuck in this situation that you can't control that because the person doesn't want to be there, and so you're on your own. So the first thing is identifying what you're truly feeling guilty about. And for me, it was just choosing the wrong person. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you chose someone who is not supportive of your children. And I felt guilty about that. So I had to identify that. Also, consider whether the feelings of guilt are warranted. In my case, they really weren't. They really weren't. I was giving it all to my kids. And I was doing the very best I knew how to do. I went to work. I provided. And I was also there emotionally and physically and spiritually and financially. So I really was giving them the best of me. So in my case, I don't really, now that I look back on it and my kids are adjusted and well and healthy and happy, my guilt probably was not warranted. But that's something you have to examine for yourself. That's something you have to look at for yourself individually. Next, identify steps you can take to rectify the situation. If there is some guilt there and it is some warranted guilt and there's something that you can do about it, do it. Make the changes. Do whatever you feel you need to do to give your children the environment that they deserve. Next, distinguish between guilt from sadness. Are you just sad that you're alone? Are you just sad that your finances are off? Or are you just sad? Or is this truly guilt? Are you feeling guilty about something? So you gotta, that's self-reflection. You gotta figure that out for yourself. That's not something I can answer for you. I wasn't sad. When I was in the midst of being a single parent and like deep in it, there wasn't sadness there. There was a definite feeling of guilt of not being able to give my children what I felt they deserved. And so now that I'm on the other side and the youngest one will be 18 in a week. I keep shouting that because thank you. Hallelujah. Praise God. We made it. I don't remember being sad. Now there were some stages of depression and some anxiety. And I think that this guilt played a part in that now that I'm able to self-reflect. But there wasn't that sadness. But again, that's a question you have to answer for yourself. Change your self-talk. Truly begin to inspire yourself. Tell yourself you're a good mom or dad. Tell yourself I'm doing a great job. Tell yourself my kids love me. They're proud of me. Affirmations daily, especially when you're struggling, especially when times are their hardest. You really have to encourage yourself because your little people, they need you. They can't necessarily always be the source of encouragement that you need. Sometimes you'll get a quick I love you or a thank you mom or a kiss on the cheek and that pushes you to that next level. But sometimes the little people in your life can truly be ungrateful because they don't know what you're going through and what you're sacrificing to give them the life that they have. So they don't even realize that they're being ungrateful. So you really have to encourage yourself. You have to choose affirmations that support that and that lift you up and that push you to continue to be the great person that you are, the great mom or dad that you are. Is your guilt helping or hurting you? So that's where I talked about, I think my guilt a little bit helped me because it motivated me. That was sometimes that was the reason why I got up in the mornings to go to work, was because my kids couldn't go without. They weren't going to come up short. Man, listen, my kids weren't about to miss a field trip and the $20 that they needed and the sack lunch because I didn't go to work that week. Nah. So my guilt kind of pushed me a little bit. I know that could be different for others. So you have to look at your personal situation and decide, is this guilt helping or hurting me? And then finally, you have to look for ways to forgive yourself. And here at the Making Sense with Meka podcast, we big on healing and forgiving. And so now I'm on a process of forgiving myself for all those years that I felt guilty and felt like I was lacking and not enough for my children, because they've clearly stated their stance. Mom, you were, and so now it's time for me to forgive that area of my life and to say, Tamika, you really did all that you could to provide, protect, love, and support, encourage, and motivate your children to the best of your ability, in spite of not having that partner there to support them. And be proud of myself. Sometimes, all the time, I'm my own worst critic. And I don't toot my own horn. I don't pat myself on the back. And this is one of those times that, I'm okay with patting myself on the back for this one. My people, my little people that are now adults, are amazing people. And that was thanks to me. Yeah, me. I did that. And I did a damn good job because they're good people. My son is a man, and he takes care of himself, and he provides for the ones that he loves, and he's responsible. My daughter is amazing and headed to an HBCU of her choice with a full scholarship. I'm talking that talk, speaking into existence. And they're hard workers. And they're motivated. And they have a lot of dedication. And they love their family. And I instilled all those things in them. It's so funny because in the conversation with my daughter, she told me, she said, Mom, you always raised me to be independent. And I quickly dismissed that as, that's just you. But I know I played a part in that because I allowed her independence. I allowed her to free think and to make some choices for herself. And so that only encouraged her independence. I could have stifled that. I could have, blocked all of that. But I encouraged that. So I was so quick to dismiss my own self. And my daughter's clearly giving me a compliment. Like, thanks, Mom. You raised me to be independent. And I'm clearly saying, no, you did it on your own. That was the guilt speaking. That was the guilt of not being enough. So those are areas of my life that I have to heal, that I had to come to terms with, that I have to be okay with. And I'm so glad and so thankful for the journey that I'm on, that now I take time to listen to myself, to really hear and think through things, and to self-reflect. Self-reflection has been so big for me. Even after I say something or after I do something, right or wrong, I sit back and I think about it. Like, Tamika, why did you do that? Like, why did you say that? You know what I'm saying? Like, where did that feeling come from? And through all of that, I've been able to heal and to forgive and to move my life forward and to bring you all in on my journey. Making Sense with Meka, the podcast, is a labor of love. It's a passion. And it's a part of my journey. It's a part of my own healing. And I decided to bring in people to listen and join me on this journey. So it's been amazing. And I'm super, super grateful and thankful for having a platform, no matter how big or small it is, to be able to speak to people, because I know people are listening. And this is going to help somebody. Right here, this message for a single parent is going to help somebody. I didn't even know single parent guilt existed. I wish someone would have told me about this, or I knew about it 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I think it would have brought some light to my life. And maybe it would have reduced some of those dark days. I don't have any regrets, but had I had someone had this conversation with me 10, 15 years ago, I think I probably wouldn't have been so hard on myself. And I could have loved myself a little bit more and not thought that I was always short of what everyone else needed. And I could have given a little to myself. Y'all, I kept so much for myself. I didn't love myself enough during that time because there was no room for it in my mind. There was only room for loving the people who needed me. But I needed me and didn't even realize it. In the midst of all of that, I didn't even realize it. So my message today is, number one, take care of yourselves. Love yourselves and be the best version of yourself. Because when you do that, the people that you love and that love you and that need you will get the best of you. And they'll see you for who you truly are always. And they'll appreciate you and they'll be grateful and thankful for what you were able to give. All right, y'all. That's another episode of Making Sense with Meka, the podcast. We out. All right, y'all. As always, the Making Sense with Meka podcast, we have Ask Meka segment of the show. So the Ask Meka segment this week is, Meka, why do Black women have to suffer before they get love? Now, y'all, I don't have no real good answer for that. It shouldn't be. Black women deserve love without all the suffering. You shouldn't have to be with a man for 10 years, have 3 kids by him, and him cheat on you, have 2 outside kids, for him to love you. And for him to finally wake up and say, oh, this my queen, she ride or die, let me put a ring on it. Hell no. That is not love. It is not genuine. And it's not fair. I don't know where or how this started, that Black women have to accept all of this suffering. I will say this, that the world looks at us as we're so strong. Not only Black men, but the world looks at us like we are just these 1976 Buicks, that we can take any hit that comes our way and we're resilient and we will bounce back. It won't be a dent, a scar, nothing. Lies. Now, are we good at masking all of that? Excellent. Black women are the best at putting on a great face and pushing through. No other race of women do it like we do. Because no other race of women have had to suffer or had to endure the pain and hurt and dismissiveness from her own people that we've had to endure. Malcolm X said it best. The Black woman is the most unloved and unprotected being on this planet. Those weren't his exact words, I'm paraphrasing. But you get it. And I think that a lot of it began during our passage over here. during the African diaspora. I believe a lot of it happened during that slave trade, during our years of bondage and being in slavery. Our men were so broken and torn down. They literally had to stand by and watch as their slave master took their wives, their daughters, their mothers, and they raped them and they impregnated them and could do nothing. They could not protect them at all. And so I believe in some way they began to place this hero complex on us because we made it through. In spite of the abuse and the beatings, we still survived. We still had babies. We still raised generations of people. We still cooked and cleaned. We still worked the fields. We still did everything that was required of us. Had a smile on our face, a twitch in our hips, and a sparkle in our eyes during all of that. And I think somewhere in the midst of that got passed down that, oh, they can handle it. They can handle it. If they can handle that, they can handle a little cheating. They can handle a little physical abuse. They can handle the lies, the games. And then also I think that in that, it became a story of our unworthiness. Well, if the white slave master can go and make babies by her and force her to take care of and nurture his kids, then she doesn't deserve my love. She isn't beautiful to me anymore. She isn't the valued treasure that we truly know that we are. And so I believe that all of this is a part of a generational curse. I believe that there is some breaking up of this curse, but we have a lot of misogyny, a lot of angry black men who don't know how to love, provide, and protect the black woman. So that's where you end up with these situations where we have to suffer to get what we think is a small semblance of love. When it's not. It's not. It's just a consolation prize. You've been with him for 10 years and you done had 2 kids with him. He done had 3 outside of you, and he done lied and cheated the whole time. Half the time he ain't kept a job, and now he want to put a ring on it. And even if he put a ring on it and y'all possibly make it down the aisle, it was just a consolation prize. That's not true love. And I believe that's the reason why we talked about before, why a lot of successful black women are single. Because they're not settling for the BS no more. They're like, I'm not going through all of that with you just for you to leave me, just for you to not value me, just for you to not be a present parent with these children that we had together. So a lot of black women have said, nah, I'd rather be alone. I'd rather be by myself than to deal with that. Our communities are bleeding. Hurt people hurt people. And we haven't received the sufficient amount of counseling or therapy needed. I don't know if there's enough counseling and therapy on earth to heal the trauma that we faced as a people. If you have African heritage, if you have African blood flowing through your veins, and you are on the North American continent and live in the United States of America, you have post-traumatic stress syndrome, period. I don't give a damn where you grew up at. I don't give a damn how much money your parents had. I don't give a damn what kind of education you got. I don't care what your title is. You have post-traumatic stress syndrome. And you have been through things that would kill off generations of other races. And until we begin to heal our communities, until we begin to heal our families, until we begin to break the curses that have been placed on our people, we will continue to suffer. Our families will continue to remain broken, and we will struggle to produce healthy and strong human beings. Saying that, I'm also going to say that there are some healthy and strong human beings out there. There are people who have been proactive about their healing. There are people out there who have taken the necessary steps to go to counseling, to get therapy, to get whatever they need to be a good person, to be able to love others, to be able to not bleed on others that did not cut them. And so there are people out there who will love you and who will support you and who will motivate you, who will not lie and cheat, who will lift you up, that you can mate with, that you can build a life with, that you can build a future with. So you don't have to settle. Now, are those people coming around like the bus every 15 minutes? No, they ain't readily available. You got to do some searching. But I also believe when you become healed and you become a complete person and you are whole on your own without anyone else, that somehow the stars and the moon and the universe align and that person crosses your path. You run into them in the grocery store, you meet them in a parking lot, you sign up for a yoga class and they happen to be in there as well. Like, it'll come when it is your time and you are truly ready and you are whole on your own. So sisters, again, don't settle because you don't have to. And be complete on your own. Do your own process. Do your own healing. Get to who you are and be happy by yourself. And the universe will work the rest out. All right, y'all. That's Ask Meka. Y'all have a great one.